you for the introduction, kind introduction, and for setting the tone for this session, as well as Mr. Nandakumar. I think it was a very interesting presentation from you. So, this topic is very timely now because, and I see that the word has been added, safe and sustainable. Probably it's been the first time where the headline has this word safety has been added, and that's because of the current situation, I'm sure. And the COVID situation, just a word because some of my predecessors have spoken about it. I would say that people are really scared, and this has been largely aided by the press also. We've termed it as a pandemic. The economy has been badly affected, but we must remember in perspective that the total deaths in India and probably worldwide is less than 1.5% of deaths which have occurred in the last 160 days. And in these days also, the deaths because of flu, diabetes, heart disease, malaria, tuberculosis are in each of them are much more than this percentage. Now, what can we do? It's best to improve the personal immunity, not only against COVID, but against all diseases. If we can improve and maintain our immunity, we can be healthy. And of course, a lot has been spoken about the air quality, very detailed presentations, the molds, and all the other things that we can do to make buildings smarter, to make them more responsive to what people need. But as you know, today, if two people fall sick in a building, the rest of the people have to go back home or be quarantined because there is fear that. So it's not only our business to keep ourselves healthy, but to make sure that everybody around us or whom we know are also healthy. So what do we do now? There are aspects which the what I'm going to talk about. There is very little knowledge and therefore very little implementation of a key element, and that is the element of e-pollution in buildings. So e-pollution is not very well known, but of course, the smarter the building, and this session also talks about how smart a building is. But the more smart the building is, the more e-pollution you cause. And in today's situation, when we are all working from home or working remotely or doing these webinars and everything, now I've been sitting on this webinar for 2 hours, so my screen time is humongous. So our screen time is increasing, and that is putting us more at risk. And I think buildings need to take more cognizance of this while designing this. I'm glad that the IGBC well building standards have incorporated this, and there are some points for this. And the other thing which I want to say at the outset is that it's good that the IGBC has now recognized that it's not only good to certify green buildings, but to renew, to have a system of renewal. So you may make a building green at one point of time, but are you maintaining it as equally? So that is important, and that is a very welcome step. The other step, which is very important, is to have data before a building becomes green in case of an existing building and after. What is the health parameters of people before and after? So that kind of monitoring for health, because if we are doing it for people, we must make sure that it helps them. So can we have the presentation, please? So I'll take you through some slides which will give a perspective of what this phenomena is and how to deal with it. What we can do is that one of the things which we may not know is we don't read a manual on of our laptops or our cell phones. So while this is there in the presentation, because the presentation is okay, it's there. Thank you. So we call all these radiations as everyday radiations because they are there all the time and they're surrounding us. And they're very, so next slide, please. Next one. Can you go to the next one, please? So this is just the range of work we've done. It's very small right now, but we've touched about more than 100 million square feet and touched the lives of almost 4 million people to try and make them healthier. And this travels all kinds of establishments. Next, please. We'll go quickly. So the radiations that we are talking about are from the mobile phones and tablets, from the towers, boosters, from the Wi-Fi routers, from high tension lines, from laptops. These are the man-made radiations. And there are, of course, standards for it, but there are caveats to it which we don't read. And there are natural radiations which are called geopathic stresses. Now, these are grid lines which run north, south, east, west, and they are spaced anywhere between 5 meters to 15 meters apart. And then there are underground water streams. So they are essentially cavities under the earth and mineral deposits. So there are ways to detect it with the instrumentation. And we have wavelengths and frequencies for each of these phenomena, which can be seen, surveyed, and then corrected. We have already mapped the city of Gurgaon for the geopathic stress, and that is available on the Google map with a link. Next, please. So some of the effects are fatigue, less concentration, cognitive function. Uh, of course, then for the natural things, what is written in school is equally applicable for offices where people feel tired and lethargic. They have headaches at the end of the day. Higher attrition, because some of the seats which are affected by the geopathic stress, people don't feel good and they leave the organization, and low concentration levels, poor sleep quality at homes. The largest disease in the world, by as per the one of the most famous doctors in the UK, 50% people suffer from bad sleep quality, and this is one of the reasons. So next, please. Breakdowns in plants also. So I was telling you about the mobile phone manual. So these are the four recommendations. So recommendation: talk time not to exceed 6 minutes an hour. We probably don't talk for 6 minutes an hour. Use earphones while talking, not Bluetooth, because when you use a Bluetooth, then you are transmitting and receiving all the time. Keep the device 5 to 15 millimeters away from your body at any given time and text more than you talk. If we had time to take a poll, we would find that more than 80% of people don't follow one or more of these. Next, please. Now, WHO has classified mobile phones as possibly carcinogenic, cancerous, in 2011. And they did the same thing for cigarettes in 1996. So, if not this, if we don't allow our children to smoke cigarettes, why do we allow them phones? They are much more susceptible. Next one. So as I was telling you, geopathic stresses, the ground energies, the natural energies affect about 20% of all built spaces on the earth. And animals have a natural, children and animals have a natural instinct. They will not sit or use those areas which are geopathically stressed because they understand it. We have lost that sensitivity, so we need instrumentation to find this out. And the good news is that we don't have to waste space, commercial space or residential space. There are ways to correct these without making people move their places of. And of course, our Wi-Fi and electromagnetic radiation, which is called e-pollution, has increased by 100 times in the last 15 years and now increasing exponentially for the last 4 months. And this is what Andrew Weil had to say. It might be the most dangerous. You may not have heard of a disease called EHS, but you would definitely hear about it much more, like you are doing about COVID in the next 3 to 4 years. Electrohypersensitivity. So in Sweden, about 1.5% of the population is affected by EHS, where when you are in an electromagnetic environment, your hands and body start shaking. Next, please. So this is the way the everyday. Can you put on the video, please? There's a small video we'd like to show you, and it just gives you an illustration. So this is the geopathic radiation in our homes and offices. So geo is the earth and pathic is what causes pathos or suffering. Uh, next, so this is how it looks on the earth's surface. It causes, as I told you, various problems. There it causes sleep disorder because you have the lines. If you are sleeping on a bed which is geopathic, where the geopathic stress line is cutting you, then there can be a problem. So I think the voice is not going, it's not working well. I think you can skip this. And so this was discovered in 1940 by Ernst Hartmann. He was a German scientist, and he found that 99% correlation between cancer and this. So this is how the geopathic stress lines, some of them look. So when they cut you, then you can have a issue. Your body can be stressed all the time. So when you are supposed to relax for 8 hours, you are actually getting stressed. One of the immediate manifestation is that your heart rate and pulse rate increases. So we can go on to the we can finish this and we can go to the next slide, please. So this is a typical home. The various Wi-Fi sources. There's a mobile tower. There's a high tension line. So you can see how many things are affecting us all the time. Next, please. Go to the next slide, please. This is a typical home. So you would see an office. So in the home, these round circles that you see is from a Wi-Fi router. And then, of course, they are there from the personal devices and the electrical devices. And the lines that you see are the magnetic grid lines, the geopathic stress lines, and also the water stream. So the broader strip that you see is an underground water stream. So these are all geopathic stress zones. And then you see the living room or something. So you have the TV, you have various devices. So next, please. So the good news is, again, this is a kind of an office. So you can see the routers, you can see each personal device, of course, affects. And the good news is that these can be corrected. So like you see that in a total about 78 people, almost the geopathic stress is impacting 12 people and the electrosmog is impacting 10 people. And of course, naturally, so the total impact is almost on 45 people. Next, please. So these are some of the solutions. We have solutions which are non-intrusive, so you don't have to sacrifice use of technology, but you can correct the negative effects of the radiation. These are some of the products. So there's a service and there's a product. So in the natural energies can be corrected by surveying it and then putting the chips, the geo chip, and the Wi-Fi radiations can be corrected with the EnviroGlobe and the EnviroChip. Next, please. So there are no layout changes required. The solutions are non-intrusive. Results are measurable. We measure various things like the pulse rates before and after, and we have health surveys before doing our work and 3 to 6 months after doing our work. It's all done scientifically. All the solutions are internationally certified and tested by people like MIT, CE, published extensively in journals, reputed journals. Next, please. This is the way we measure. So we had about 8,000 respondents have been subject to surveys in various establishments, and the heart rate 3 to 8% improvement, improvement in health about 67% productivity, and as I mentioned, 28% decrease in attrition rates and decrease in machine breakdowns, especially in refineries, steel plants, power plants. Next, please. The affected zones, of course. These are some of our clients. So we are happy to say that 25% of the top 100 ET companies are using our services. Next, please. So that's it. And so this is, I think I've kept to the time that was given to me. And I'm happy to answer any
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your timekeeping. I've got see for the restriction of time. I've got one question to each of you. The first is Mr. Nanda Gopalan. So, though a lot of smart cities missions and government of India is planning to develop 100 smart cities, how the automation industry is gearing up to provide smart automation solutions that is at a supply and at the same time at a demand end. So, what are your thoughts on that? Can you just talk about this, Mr. Nandagopalan? Oh, I think so. He's not audible. Okay, then to Mr. Ajay, I would put a question. With the use of increased technology and gadgets at the offices, homes, and almost every habitable space, with the radiations increasing. So, what are the things which ultimately, as a common man, to understand? Because this is something a very new technology which is coming up. So, how do you intend to get it more into the market and get to the knowledge of the people?
Yeah, so awareness is very important. So these kind of interactions are important. There is more research which needs to be done. Governments need to recognize it more. So we are engaging with governments and, of course, like Indian Green Building Council. Then, of course, we are now we are into the market. We are in the retail space. We are in the direct marketing space, and we have a lot of repeat clients. But in the way we want to get it into the market is, as I mentioned, we made a start with Gurgaon, where we mapped it for the geopathic stress lines, and that is something which is being made available as a knowledge to to people in general to see how much they are affected. Plus, we are doing things like free surveys and things like that so that people can have an impact assessment. But ultimately, to get one of the things is for people to be aware. So it's like you're not should not be sitting. Your server rooms should be designed so that people are not sitting next to radiation. Basically, is a game of distance.
Okay.
So there are various kinds of things which we can specify, and of course we have solutions like the Enviro chip and the other things, and people have been using it. So there is much more awareness needs to be created. Yes.